Let's talk a little bit today about possible sleep disruptions and some ways that we can hopefully alleviate them. Now, some of this stuff we've touched on already in other videos this week, so some of this might sound a little bit repetitive, but there's some new stuff too. So the first one, and probably the most common, is just random sleep schedules, just going to bed at various times and getting up at various times from day to day or from weekday to weekend. That is very disruptive to the sleep. So the solution there, as we've already discussed, is having a regular bedtime and waking schedule and bedtime routine. Okay. And then number two disruptor is bright artificial lights. And that's just like your light bulbs. You can help to alleviate that by getting the natural white light bulbs. Those are a little bit better, but even better if we can turn the lights down low about 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Just turn off the lights and maybe open your blinds if it's still a little bit light outside, and just kind of bring the light level in your home or in your bedroom, if that's where you are, down before bedtime, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, just so that you're kind of stimulating that circadian rhythm and alerting your brain and body that it's getting close to bedtime. See, it's getting dark. Like we discussed yesterday, we want to turn the electronics off a good hour before bed at the most, or at the least 30 minutes before bed, but ideally a good hour before bed, so that we can calm the stimulating effects that they have on the brain. And then when it's bedtime, place your devices in another room. Now, a lot of us use our phones for alarms. So if you use your phone for an alarm clock and it's not a temptation for you to scroll Facebook right before you go to sleep, then go ahead and leave it in your room. If it is a temptation, if that's an issue for you, being on your phone, laying in bed while you're trying to get sleepy, you're gonna have a harder time getting sleepy if you're scrolling on your phone. So if that's a temptation for you, then I would say get an old school alarm clock and keep your phone in the other room at night. There's no notifications that you need to get in the middle of the night. If you're anxious about an emergency phone call from your kids or whatever, turn your ringer on and have it turned up loud and have it in the other room. But if you're going to have it in the bedroom, then you're going to have to really resist that temptation to be on it. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and are trying to go back to sleep, the worst thing you can do is reach for the phone, because that's going to get the brain stimulated. You're going to have a harder time going back to sleep. So we want to try to keep those electronics at a minimum at bedtime. Okay, another possible sleep disruptor is going to be irregular daytime napping. So if you're a napper and you're taking naps at all times of the day, okay, the later they are, the harder it's going to be to unwind and go to sleep at the end of the day when it's bedtime. And also the longer the naps are, the harder it's going to be. So we want to keep, we've got to have the nap times, which is fine. If you need it, then we want to keep them to early afternoon and no longer than 20 minutes. That way it's less likely to disrupt your sleep at night. Number 4 is hot bedrooms. Okay, we talked yesterday about making your bedroom on the cool side, and that's because your body temperature naturally cools when entering your sleep cycle. So we don't want to disrupt that by having a room that's overheated or using too many blankets. Okay, you want to be a little bit on the cool side. It might be a little bit cool at first, but you're going to generate some body heat under those sheets that's going to keep you a little bit warmer. So resist the urge to pile on the blankets. I'm guilty of this. I like lots of blankets, and then I find that I do have a harder time sleeping. So keep it a little bit on the chilly side and minimize the covers, which leads me into my next one, which is sharing blankets. Okay, we all know the struggle of trying to pull the covers back from our spouse. And also we have different sleeping temperatures. Like my husband sleeps really warm and I sleep cold. So he's like no covers and I'm all the covers. And so that can also kind of that back and forth and tug of war and different temperatures can also be disruptive to sleep. There's not going to be a whole lot you can do about changing your spouse's temperature preferences, but you can try to do the best you can with yours. And if need be, have two separate covers, like two separate, like he can have the light blanket and she can have the heavy blanket, or vice versa, or whatever. That way you're not uncomfortable and they're not uncomfortable. And then the next one is caffeine intake. This is a big one. Lots of people have a struggle with this. Personally, I think we need to avoid caffeine as much as we can. But if not, then keep it to before noon as much as possible. And if you really feel like you need some at that kind of 3 o'clock wall, a pick-me-up, not caffeine preferably, but if you're looking for that mid-afternoon boost, which so many of us need, then there are some alternatives to caffeine that I would recommend trying. So I'm just going to list them. And so one is ginseng, taking some ginseng. It has a little bit of awakening up property to it, but shouldn't disrupt your sleep in reasonable doses. Eating some high energy foods like beans, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and even some like more fatty foods like avocados, just some foods that are going to kind of give you an energy boost. Carbs really are good for that, but we want to keep them on the smart side. Although a late afternoon donut's not the end of the world. Just make sure you're hungry. And then some exercise. Just get moving, especially if you're a desk worker and you kind of hit that wall. Get up and walk around. Give yourself just 10 minutes. Okay, that just moving your body is going to wake up the brain and body just enough to be able to get pushed through that wall, but not disrupt your sleep that night. Aromatherapy, some fruits and nuts, which are some good ideas for the high energy foods. Water, get a drink of water, get a nice big drink of water, and stand up for it, walk around with it. Turn on some music and have a dance party, right? It kind of goes along with the exercise too. And then some herbal tea, sip some herbal tea instead of some soda or some coffee. And ginger, licorice, and rose hips are good ideas for tea that will give you just a little bit of a boost, but not caffeine, so that it's not an artificial boost that you're going to crash from and that will disrupt your sleep later. So those are some good alternatives for some caffeine in the late afternoon. And then our last one is stress. If we can reduce our stress, we can increase our ability to sleep better. So some ways to offset the nighttime stress is we make a to-do list before bedtime, so that, like I said, before, you're not thinking about your to-do list tomorrow. Write it down. It's already there. You can forget about it and go to sleep. It'll be there waiting for you in the morning, so you'll know what you have to do, and you won't have to try to remember, oh, what was it that I was thinking about as I was falling asleep that I needed to do today? Another one is keep a journal. It can help identify and alleviate any anxious thoughts. You can vent your frustrations. You can problem solve. Do a free thinking writing exercise to just get all of your thoughts out on paper. That way they can come out of your head, and then you can just let them go. And then also to meditate and deep breathing exercise. So you can do like a box breathing. So you can like inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold the exhale for 4 seconds, and just go back and forth like that. And if 4 seconds is too long, do it for 2, do it for 3, whatever you can do without feeling like you're going to hyperventilate. But just that box breathing can help calm the mind, and it gives us something to focus on rather than the thoughts that are spinning around in our head. You can also just breathe in and to three counts in and 5 counts out. I recommend doing this through your nose because it will force the slower breathing, and then only focus on your breathing and try to block out any thoughts that are trying to invade into that space. So just focus on the breathing, and you can even do this as you're lying in bed, as you're falling asleep. and that can kind of help push those stressful, anxious thoughts away and help you to drift off to sleep. And then again, if this is a major issue for you and you have you have an anxiety disorder and that's keeping you awake, it's a good idea to consult with a medical professional to talk about some possible treatments that you can use to alleviate that anxiety and be able to sleep. So if all else fails, then you can consult with your doctor and see if there are some solutions that would work for you.